Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another edition of the Post Fight Show here on the Mandatory. Remember, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and also follow us on our social media channels. We're at the Mandatory TKO. You can also see in the description where our names are, the ways that you can connect with us as well. And you can find us on the audio side. So if you are listening to this on the audio side, if you got a couple of minutes, leave a rate and review. Also give us a 5-star because those are the things that helps the channel grow. And if you've already done all of that, thank you so much for rocking with us. Lots to get into. It's been a crazy boxing weekend, one of the biggest. By the way, this is an interactive show, so if you got any comments, drop them. We will be getting to all your comments later in the show. But Brian, I think we got to start off with the main event, and then coming up later in the show, we're gonna get into the all women's card that went down yesterday. Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor 3. So we're gonna talk about that as well. So don't worry, we got you covered for your boxing fix. But let's start off with today because that ending that we just saw for the main event for Edgar Berlanga and Sheeraz, crazy, right? It only lasted 4 rounds.
Five.
And five. Okay, yes, five. Oh my god, it went by
Barely.
really fast.
We
Yeah,
barely got into the fifth. We probably shouldn't have.
that's
To
true.
be
That's
honest
true.
with you.
That's because Shiraz hurt Berlanga pretty badly, dropped him twice in that fourth round. Crazy. He ends up knocking out Berlanga. That's the first time Berlanga has ever been knocked out. It's his second loss of his career. Of course, his first one was Canelo Alvarez. But Brian, we got to start off with you, man. Your fellow Puerto Rican. Uh,
And also from New York, by the way.
yes, yes.
I mean, I've been telling you guys for however long since we started doing the show that Edgar Berlanga, like he got dropped in the amateurs pretty bad, and people in this area of the country in New York City kind of knew he was chinny going into the pros, and the knockout streak sort of hid a lot of that. And then you saw what started happening as he started having longer fights and banking rounds, so to speak. And yeah, like I wasn't too surprised. I didn't like the fact that when he opened up in round four, I was like, I'm not sure this actually benefits him. And what I kept saying was in the build up to this, Carlos Adames made Hamzah Sheeraz struggle because Carlos Adames was moving his head, giving Shiraz angles, and Shiraz is like a straight line fighter. And Adames was like making him look silly. I thought he won that fight easily. But Edgar Berlanga is not going to do any of that. That's why I was like, I don't know if he has this in his bag, but he has to be able to move around to create angles. And Edgar Berlanga doesn't do that. Like he's also a straight line guy. Like he might move a little bit, but for the most part, like he's just going to try to overwhelm you with his power. And he's gotten increasingly patient in looking for those shots, allowing for openings for his opponent. Like the game plan was the game plan. He had to catch him to win. We also said like we're like maybe he should win this, but we weren't like super confident. I definitely wasn't. Because Shiraz, even though he was moving up to this weight class, look at how big this dude is. And on top of that, he had the height advantage, the reach advantage. And Edgar Berlanga, he's not the most high IQ fighter out there. Like, I ain't saying he's a dumb dude or whatever, because that would be disrespectful. But like, y'all saw it. You know what I mean? Y'all saw what happened there. We'll get to some comments too in a little bit, but we'll start with this. Shantelle, like, what were your takeaways from that? Because I find myself also like a lot of people are gonna now put Hamzah Sheeraz into some discussions, and I'm like, I don't know because I didn't think Edgar Berlanga was world class. I think he's interesting. I think he's fun for the sport, but ultimately, I also joke that he's going to be one of these guys that we're going to look up and he's going to be like 26-3 or 26-4 with like 20 knockouts.
So I'm gonna go back to the fight first, and then I'll get back to your question. But I didn't bet on this fight because I didn't know who was gonna win. Shiraz coming up in weight, Berlanga, he's not the most skilled fighter, but going up against a guy like Hamzah Sheeraz, who is skilled and does have power, but then isn't really proven in terms of the guys that he's fought. So you're sitting here with two guys that have a lot of hype on them, I guess you could say. So I didn't bet on this fight. I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't think it turned out like that. I didn't think Berlanga would get dropped 2 times in the fourth and then make it to the fifth while he was wobbly with his legs to his corner. And then they just, Sheeraz was too much for him. They stopped it in the 5th. But the way that kind of happened, that was a little bit surprising. Tyrone the Great, anytime you donate to the show, we go straight to your comment. Well, shut up. Donated $12.30. Thank you. That's is there a reason why you gave us $12.30? Either way, like, is it lucky or something? I don't know.
12 rounds, 3-minute rounds. I don't know. Maybe that's some inside boxing shit.
Okay, he says, I wasn't expecting Matias to win, but when he did, I was overjoyed. Shakur domination. Shiraz can swat. Good boxing. You know what?
Tyrone, did you bet on Subriel? Let us know in the comments. We have some other comments.
I thought Puello won. But yeah, we have other comments. We are going to get to it. But when you donate to the show, we just shut up right away and we go straight to your comment. Tyrone the Great, also a good friend of the show. He always donates every time we have a live. So we do appreciate you, Tyrone. I will say this. I just didn't expect it to go down like that, because for me, I thought it could have gone the other way too. Like, leading into this fight, I'm going to be real, because I wasn't too sure about Shiraz. But here's the thing. We've known that Berlanga's been chinny. This has been a thing that's been rumored for a really long time. We've seen him get dropped before as well in the pros, but it was like bound to happen at some point. But I'll say this thing. I don't know if we know enough about Shiraz. Like, why are we talking about him taking on Canelo? Like, why is this a thing?
You know
like,
why.
we obviously, but it's like obviously because of Turk. But it's like I don't think we know enough about him, because I don't think Berlanga was like elite. What I thought from Berlanga was that we did see him get better throughout his fights. And I also believe that he's good for the sport of boxing. I will say one thing, and I said this to Brian, the Pelly trunks and the Jordan 4 boots, loved it. Right? Like, he has the waviness. He's good for the sport, but he doesn't have the highest IQ. So I will say this, as in boxing skill, right? I'm not talking about like if he's good at math or something, like, and fractions and stuff like that. But in terms of what we just saw, man, like, it's a little bit disappointing because it happened in New York, right? Like, this is the main event that Berlanga was headlining, happens in New York, and he was going around, having a tour after Canelo. And this happens. Like, it's not the best look. And I know you're laughing. It's, it's unfortunate, because I honestly do believe he's good for the sport. And I've continued to say this. But like I'm saying, Brian, I don't know if Shiraz is that good. Like, I need to see him against some more competition. Do you have the rankings? I know you're about to pull it up at some point. I see you move it. I see you moving and shaking around. So pull up the rankings, because I want to see where Shiraz is ranked and where he's going to go and the possibilities of who he could fight. Because, as you know, Canelo and Butter are going to fight. And if those fights go well, they can make that a trilogy. So it might be a minute before we see Shiraz against Canelo. But who could we see him against, Brian? That's the question at 168 pounds.
Tyrone says he bet Puello via our advice. I don't recall saying to bet Alberto Puello.
I didn't. I said I was going to bet on Puello, and I did. And to be honest with you, I thought he won. But hey, that's just me. I'm an unofficial scorecard keeper. I don't get paid for it. You know what I mean?
I've thought about applying to be a judge, but I don't know how that would affect the media portion of what I do. We could talk about that another time. Yeah. Because I have some thoughts on also the commentary, but we may or may not want to shade some people. Anyway, the rankings. I don't know how much the rankings matter if Turk is just going to put a shit ton of money on. Because here's the thing. You could sell Canelo and Shiraz regardless of the Crawford result, even though you would think we would just get Crawford Canelo 2 regardless of how it goes. Although we can have a Canelo conversation. Friend of the show, Jesus, isn't around right now. If he were, I'm sure he would let us know. Like, there's a Canelo conversation to be had, because I was alarmed that he couldn't stop Edgar Berlanga. I was even surprised. And I remember we were talking about in terms of betting. I was like, I don't know. He could stop Edgar Berlanga, but I'm going to bet on him to score a knockdown, because I felt more comfortable with that. Because I'm like, Canelo also low key, maybe high key, might be washed. And Shiraz just did that. And Jim Lampley said he landed 28 punches in the entire fight. So I'm looking at Canelo Alvarez a little sideways too. Like, I'm questioning Canelo Alvarez more than I'm looking at Hamzah Sheeraz like, oh, this is a future star. But I know he's going to have all the backing behind him now, because you have this highlight reel finish. Hamzah Sheeraz is number 10 according to the IBF. He will inevitably shoot up because Berlanga was fifth. Berlanga was also fifth in the WBA and WBC rankings, and in the WBO, he wasn't there. If he were with Top Rank still, he'd be number one. Actually, no, I'm wrong. He's number two. If he were Top Rank, he would still be number one. Diego Pacheco, your boy, who's fighting soon, there. So Edgar Berlanga's undoubtedly going to drop out of the top five in all of these
Yo,
rankings.
Shiraz, fight Diego Pacheco. You'll be on your ass. That's what I think.
That's an interesting prediction.
Yeah.
Hamzah
What did you wait? It is an if Diego Pacheco and Hamzah Sheeraz fought, who would you take in that fight?
Probably. I was taking Pacheco over Edgar Berlanga when we threw out this hypothetical also. So I mean,
which is a fight that's not going to happen now.
We'll see how he does. Well, if he loses to Trevor McCumbee, we'll see how he does against Trevor McCumbee. But I have the feeling Diego Pacheco will look more impressive than Caleb Plant did. But we'll see. Shiraz, though, to answer the question, 10th IBF rankings. He is not here in the WBA rankings. That's going to change. In the WBC rankings, which is probably the one that dude cares about the most, 6th. He's absolutely going to jump at least to 5. He'll swap with Edgar Berlanga, maybe even jump higher because it's a knockout. Number 5 ranked by the WBO. So he's going to vault there. But, I mean, if he's just going to fight Canelo next, then okay. But if that's going to be May, because we know Canelo's May, September. Shiraz is going to fight somebody else in the meantime. I don't know what that's going to look like, but like, I don't know. I think Osles Iglesias is good. I think Diego Pacheco is good. Like, I think this weight class has some dudes that I don't think Shiraz is all of a sudden just going to walk through all of them. Bruno Sarase, I'm still curious given what we know about Jaime Munguia now. I'm dead, like, for real. Like, I just, like, these are interesting matchups here. So
Tony Yeo says Munguia as Berlanga versus Berlanga comeback fight. Yeah, I'm down for it now. Definitely down for it now.
Tony Yeo also says Caleb Plant versus Berlanga, loser retire. Yeah, I mean, why not?
I mean, they have the storylines of like kind of the beef and stuff like that, so I'm okay with that.
And Caleb Plant just looked like shit in his last fight.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. And chat, let us know. Do you think we know enough about Shiraz? Like, is he now just that guy in this division that should be getting the shot at all the top guys? I don't believe so. I don't think just yet. I think I need to see him against somebody else.
I like, is he the guy that knocked out Edgar Berlanga and Ammo Williams, or is he the guy that got outboxed by Carlos Adames? That's what we need to find out. Yeah. I think we can move on from this main event. Although we have some tweets. Here's a good one. Berlanga every knockdown. He kept doing this. He kept clapping his hands after every knockdown.
I don't think he knew what was going on, man. He seemed kind of out of it, to be honest with you.
He had a similar reaction when Canelo dropped him too. This gif is scary. Yeah. I'm going to pause it. Luke Thomas, I'm going to not show the video because it's quote tweeting a clip from the fight, but he just says Berlanga is not good.
That's very simple. I want to go to
this is from Luke Thomas, who I think is as good as anybody doing combat sports stuff. So I think
Jalen Davis says we barely know Shiraz. Great performance, but we need to pump the brakes. I agree with this. I don't think we have enough of a sample size to say how great he is, even though he had that performance against Berlanga. Tyrone the Great says Shiraz versus Charlo. Now that's an interesting fight that I could be down for.
I'd be down for it. I don't know what to expect of Charlo at this point. Jalen Davis also says Berlanga is a character. I view him in the same light as Rolly. They are needed in the sport, 1,000%, and that's why we're going to see Edgar Berlanga again. He'll beat a couple of he'll knock out a couple of meh guys, and then he'll be right back into
who he reminds me of? Gabe Rosado. He's like a Gabe
Rosado. Wanted to fight him.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he's like a Gabe Rosado. Like, you're gonna want to watch his fights. But I feel like Berlanga hasn't had a crazy knockout for a minute.
No, I mean his fight before this, but that was against absolute that shouldn't count. If you look at the matchmaking in that one,
Yeah.
Like, it was what it was.
Let's go to our good friend of the show, Foxy, who joins us from the UK. Berlanga showed me what I always thought: fraud in all caps. The way he disrespected Hearn after everything he did for him, as well as him getting the Canelo fight, karma. You know, it's interesting. I just think he's chinny, and I don't think he was overhyped, but I think when you knock out like 16 dudes in a row or whatever it was, you're kind of set up to fail. Everyone's thinking, you know, you're the next big thing. You're from New York, you know, you have this aura around you, and then it's like you're getting criticized because you're not going the full distance. And then you go the distance, and then everyone's like, oh my God, like, okay, he went the distance. Great. Now he should get back to knocking out people. Like, it was just so unfair for him the whole entire time. Right. And then also remember, before there was Xander Zayas, Edgar Berlanga had really taken off. And this was like after COVID, or like even in between COVID, people were talking about him, and they were like, well, is he the next great Puerto Rican boxing superstar? So then he had that labeled on top of him. Like, it was just so much Berlanga was dealing with it. I'm not saying that, you know, like when you're in the business like this, it comes with it, but there was a lot of hype on him, and a lot of it wasn't his fault, right? So I'm just saying, it is what it is. He took an L, a very bad L in my opinion, and you know, I do feel like we just have to see what's next for him. You know, he's going to come back. He's great for the sport. I definitely agree.
Charlie wanted to shout you out.
Okay, he says, Shantelle, thanks for the follow on IG and watching my story. Has been rocking this channel since day one. Appreciate you, Charlie. Yeah, for sure.
Shout out to Charlie. Yeah, and we both said leading up to this fight, I do think Berlanga got, like, he was improving incrementally, but ultimately, I didn't think it was going to be enough to win like world class fights. Like, there's a distinction there. I do think he got better, but like not that much better, not like a dramatic amount. Like, you see it in the Padres and McCrory fight where he was doing some things where, like, defensively, you know, he's showing you different things than he was before. He's countering, he's being patient, he's waiting for the right openings, but at the same time, it was against Padres McCrory, and you know, ultimately, like, was it enough that you did that against a C-level dude to do that against somebody else? So, and I thought he won a couple of rounds in this fight before, like, before that happened. I thought he won 2. I don't know if it was 3 or maybe he was winning 4 before he got dropped. I don't remember, but I thought he was fine up until he got rocked, and when he got rocked, his chin just went. I think we can
move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Just real quick, this is the resume. You were talking about like pre-COVID, during COVID, whatever. So before COVID hit, he was still doing 8-rounders, and he was relatively new to Top Rank at the time. And then this is when it starts getting questionable, to your point about like the knockout streak, the decision against Nicholson. It was like, all right, he's still like, he dropped him, I think, twice in that fight. And then the Caceres fight.
Yeah, that was the one where the question started. That was the one.
But again, if you're from New York, you kind of knew this had an expiration date. So I always said, always said Xander Zayas, if Puerto Rico's going to have another like star who's not Amanda Serrano, essentially, Xander Zayas has a much better shot than Edgar Berlanga. I think if people cared about dudes who are 90 pounds, Oscar Collazo could be that guy. But, you know, people don't watch minimum weights like they should, I guess.